So, Chapter 3 basically is a continuation of what you saw in Chapter 2. Most importantly, the alliance between Austin and Tejanos, how Tejanos worked very, very hard, hand in glove with Austin, to introduce slavery into Mexican Texas. Look at how the Tejanos work in the government of Saltillo to make sure slavery would survive in Mexican Texas. The other thing, the tension from Anglo immigrants into Texas, they're very, very enticed by the promise of cheap land in Mexican Texas, but at the same time they're very afraid that the Mexican government's going to swoop in and end slavery. And for them, for Anglos coming into Texas, the issue of slavery was absolutely non-negotiable. They just could not conceive of a world that did not include slave labor. Note that most of the folks, the vast majority of Anglos that are coming into Texas in the 1820s and even in the periods after the 1820s, they're coming into Texas from slave regions, from regions of the United States where slavery is deeply established. And they bring these Anglos bring these attitudes with them into Mexican Texas. Once again, there are debates in the Mexican Congress, in the Congress of Saltillo, about the question of slavery. Keep an eye on that. And then I want you to be able to trace some of the compromises that are offered when it comes to the question of slavery in the state legislature in Saltillo. How are these folks trying to thread the line between building up Texas economically, and what that meant was slavery, but many of these folks had deep principled opposition to slavery. And there are very, very severe fights in the legislature in Saltillo about the future of slavery. So keep an eye on how slavery manages to worm its way in to Mexican Texas, even in the face of opposition by many in Mexico, many in northern Mexico. And the other thing is, keep an eye out especially on events in the state legislature in Saltillo, and how the Tejano alliance with Austin, how it ends up allowing the entry of slaves into Mexican Texas, at least for a brief time. Okay, so note that. Also note that the Mexican government, whatever laws they passed, they had very little capacity to enforce because they did not have a powerful police presence in their northeastern frontier. So this was another issue that the Mexicans, it's a very weak government. It's weak in Mexico City, and it's weak in Mexico City, weak in Saltillo. And so Mexicans are passing laws, but just because you pass a law doesn't mean that you can enforce the law. The other thing is note the importance of the apprenticeship compromise or loophole that's created by Tejanos. Pay very, very careful attention to that, because it's this loophole that will allow, at least for a brief period of time, this apprenticeship loophole. Pay attention to that, because it's the apprenticeship loophole that will ultimately allow slaves into Texas.